Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper, and in this video today I'm going to show you how to build a custom bicycle generator. So let's take a look at it now. Okay, now before we begin going step by step on this process of building this bicycle generator, I want you to keep in mind this is a custom build. Now your bicycle, if you have an extra bicycle and want to do this project, it might be a larger or smaller size bike, so you're going to have to adjust some things throughout the build. But now I'm going to put notes in the build, and I'm also going to put links and the best information I can to help you acquire the things you'll need to build this build in the bottom of the video description. Because usually I lay out all the components, but this is a totally custom build, so you'll have to adjust some things here and there. Now, with that said, I want to send out 3 shout-outs before I go any further in this video. First off, I want to thank the Most High for letting a dream that I've had for a long time come to light, because this is something that I personally wanted. This is something that some of my prepping friends and our mag group has wanted to get done, and it's finally come to light. So in case I lose my solar panels, wind turbine, gasifier, generator, everything else, as long as I've got a battery and I've got the 2 legs the Most High gave me, I can pedal and make some power. So I'm very grateful for that. Secondly, I want to say a thank you to Brian May. You can check out his YouTube channel right there. Brother, I appreciate you. Thank you for sending me the motor. He hooked me up with this motor and quite a few of the components that for this build. I really appreciate you, my friend. And make sure to check out his channel, because he does a lot of great stuff with power production, such as solar and wind. I also want to say, lastly, thank you to my good friend and like a brother to me, Scott, because he's the one that acquired us this bike second hand, so we were able to get us a bike for the project, because that's the main component. Alright, now with that said, there is many uses for this. I mean, you could, if you have a bunker, okay, if you're one of the people that's got to have a bunker, then this right here is the ticket, because you don't have to worry about your solar panels, wind turbine, anything. If you're a person that can't afford solar panels, wind turbines, all that fancy stuff, this right here, most of these little tripod mounts and motors they've sold on eBay, I've looked, and they're anywhere between $500 to $800. I did this entire build through secondhand parts for around $100. Alright, you can probably acquire the stuff you need either by bartering or trading with somebody or buying it for, I'm going to say, around $100, $200. So that's way less than what you would pay just for the mount. And then the bicycle itself, those mounts don't even come with a bicycle most often. So there you still have to supply a bike. So this is a great opportunity for you to build you a great prepping item for very cheap. Alright, now, not only that, but one last note, and then we're going to go to the build itself, is when the 7 trumpets of Revelation begin to happen. When trumpet 4 happens and there's darkness in the skies and you can't charge your batteries. Alright, and not only that, but say the wind turbine ain't working. This right here is a good backup option to get you some power. Alright, not only that, if you have to go to a place for some shelter during the first 3 trumpets, and not only that, but the ones following afterwards, this right here is a good compact thing that you can put into a prepping area and use. Okay, so there's so many uses for this. Alright, so I've talked enough. Let's get to building. Okay, to begin with, we're going to have the initial frame, the triangle mount. Now, don't panic. I'm going to show you all the measurements and everything here. I just wanted to have it framed up to this point and go over it then to have the whole bike set in there and have everything set in there, and then trying to take it piece by piece. I can show you all this, help bring you up to this point, and then you can take it to the next section I'll show you. Now, what I've done is I've took this bike wheel and I've lined it with electrical tape, and I'm going to continue to build it up so that the spokes that come through and bolt it down won't, rub on my belt and wear it out. I've done that while I had this wheel off, just getting it, an idea of how I want this thing to set. Now, what I've done is I took the angle bracket here that I've had left over from when I built my shelves up on the hill, and all this bracket work was cut to the same length, so it's roughly 2-foot sections, and right there is 2 foot. Okay, so you've got 2 foot and 2 foot, and then this inside portion is 2 foot also. Alright, so it's 2 by 2. Alright, now for this triangle section, here's what I done. My bike the wheel diameter and everything, you might have to adjust this depending on, you know, the size of your bike wheel, the bicycle you're using. But now what I done is I took and marked this off. I measured the height of how far I was wanting this bike to be off the ground. Now, you might be just a little bit more elevated or a little shorter depending, but what I done is I measured that to where it's almost about 16 inches. You could just go 16, but what you do is you take two of these pieces that I had, they were 2 foot long. So I just took two pieces of the angle, put a bolt through it, and spread it out, and I measured down how far I wanted to go, so I come to like right there, you know, like I said, about 16. It's like 15 and a half what I ended up with, but I come to just say 16 to keep these numbers even, all right? And I laid this bar across there and figured out where my bolt holes would match up, and I turned the width of the triangle out that far, and I marked it. And then I just took it outside, and the two marks that I had, I just grinded it and cut that off so that it would be that width, and then come back and bolted it together. And that way our frame is sturdy now. And this is just, you could just cut you another piece of angle. I had this as the stiffeners off of my shelves. You can just put them across there and bolt that up if you've got little L brackets or something like this laying around, or just a piece of sheet metal cut, or this angle. You know, you can use the 1/4 inch angle iron either way, or if you've got shelving material, stuff like this laying around. But that is all you need to do for that portion of the build. Now what we'll do now is we'll take this wheel and mount it back to the bike here in just a minute, but I'm going to take the bicycle itself, and you'll see where I've drilled through, and I'll run them bolts through this on each side, and that way when you set the bike in, you can tighten it down, and now the bike's secure to the frame. So we'll go to that now. Okay, now that we've got the initial framing done, I'll show you this motor mount that I done to the frame itself in just a minute. Now keep in mind though, when I do show it to you, you will have to probably adjust your motor to your mount depending on what type of motor it is, and I'll get into all that in a second. Right here, the second thing you want to do is actually get the bike itself mounted to the frame. Now what I done is I've got a 1/4 inch bolt that I ran through this open joint in the back of my bike. Once again, you might have to adjust your mounting to your bike because of the different types of bikes. Then I ran it through a nut and washer to hold that together, then a nut and washer to this, and then a nut and washer on the other side. Now if you'll notice the way that I spaced that into the frame, as earlier I didn't say the spacing between the frame, because likewise this is all custom made, so you'll have to adjust your frame, the inner part for your bike to sit on. Now this is good and sturdy now, and so what we'll do is that creates a void where that I can easily put the wheel in, mount my chain on it, adjust it if I need to take it off for the pulley, and then here we go. We've got true end to put our pulley, or our belt around our pulley here in just a minute, and our wheel, and then I'll show you how to wire the blocking diode and put the clamps on, and this project's pretty much knocked out, so we'll do that next. Okay, now we're at the part of the build here where that I've taken some more L bracket stiffeners. I'm about to drill out this last one and put that there to tighten this bracket work up really good right here. Now I've come up about 4 inches from the bottom of this stand on the back here, and I've mounted this motor that, as I said earlier, my good friend Brian May gave to me, and it's got 9 amps rated here, so this ought to do really good at charging the batteries. And now I've got that about centered on where the bike wheel, whenever it's on, and on the bicycle frame itself that I've showed you earlier, that will mount into here just shortly. And what I'm going to do last, while I've got this mounted here, is I want to show you how that, now you might get a motor like this from a treadmill off of eBay, or I mean you might have a motor, you're going to have to fabricate your mount. I mean this is one build that it's just kind of being built on the fly, but at least I can show you to give you an idea of what I done. I've come off of the mount with one more piece of framework here just to hold this motor up and kind of take the stress off of that mount coming up, just holding all the weight. And now this motor right here is going to come back and it's going to mount right there. I'm going to drill through for the hardwire, and what that'll do is I'm going to start right there, and then as the belt starts to wire down, I can tighten it back, tighten it back, tighten it back, until eventually I'll have to replace it. And what that'll do is that'll give me a long lifespan with the belt that I've got. So we'll move to the next portion of the build now. Okay, now right before I go to wiring the motor, I want to make sure that everything's adjusted into place, and I put my belt on now that I've acquired. I had to measure it out. Since this is a custom build, you'll have to measure your belt length. A quick way to do this is once you've got your motor in line with your wheel centered, the best thing to do is take a piece of string, run around it all the way, and mark it. Either that or the measuring tape you'll see in a seamstress uses to sew with and measure people and then sew the clothing. You can use that. But now that I've got this all together, I'm running my belt, and see here we've got a very smooth operation. The belt's staying in place, and once I get it tightened here, the wheel in a minute, that slack in the belt will be taken up and we'll be in good shape. So all that's left now is to move to the wiring coming off the motor, and we're pretty much finished. Okay, now I'm going to show you this wiring process in 3 different parts. Part 1 is we have the motor in place, the belt's on the motor good and everything, and so we can start our wiring. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring from the red wire that comes off the motor, because this is still spinning properly, okay, so we want to make sure our polarity's right, is we bring the red hot wire up together, and we're going to bring another lead wire off of that hot, so you'll have 3 wires together, one coming off the motor, one going to the hot, and one leading off to go to our voltmeter that I'll show you how to wire here in a little while. Okay, now same scenario with the negative. You're going to have the wire coming off. I only had red wire from something I had salvaged, so that's why I covered it in the black coating, so you know, just for this diagram for the moment. Okay, so you've got your negative coming off, although it's a red wire at the moment, I'm just salvaging, and then you have a lead wire coming off it to go up to the voltmeter. So we have negative and positive coming off there, negative positive coming off here, negative positive going off there. That way all the negatives are together, all the positives together. Now what I'm going to do with these motor controller wires that were left over is just tape them together and keep them off the side, and I'll hide them in this in a minute. So we'll have the lead going up to the voltmeter being attached here in a moment, and then we'll have the leads going out to our alligator clips. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, now that we've came from our leads that were coming off the motor, now once again I did use red wire for both positive and negative. Do not do that if at all possible. I was just trying to recycle everything I could. So I have my negative marked. Okay, so I've come out to my negative lead straight off of our 3 pieces that came together there. I've just came straight out to the negative. Alright, now to the positive though, I've came out to my blocking diode. Alright, now you need to make sure that the blocking diode you buy, it's like a check valve. Power can only go one way, can't backfeed, okay? Because if you hook this up without a blocking diode in your installation, you're just going to be making an electric bicycle, and that's not going to do you no good at all. So what you're going to do is put your blocking diode in the line, and then from there run that out to your cable. Now what I'll do now is tuck that all in there, tape that off, and there's my leads going out to my battery. Alright, so that's all there is to that. Now off of our other end of our 3-way that we tied together, I came out here to a voltmeter. Alright, now what I've done is I've got a voltmeter right now that you have to have an external power source. They sell those on eBay that do not require an external power source. It's powered by whatever you're doing. So for instance, you just have 2 wires coming off, like just pretend these 2 wires that's from the wall right now aren't even to this. If you buy the one off eBay, it'll just run straight to this, and it'll be the 12 volt power source will be whatever you're pedaling. Okay, now with that said, let's send this thing a pedaling. And now right there's all I have to do is just get this a little faster, and now that's it. I'm already making voltage right there, and barely any effort at all. Keep this pace, 13, 14 volts humming back and forth, but I've just got to keep a steady cycle going, and that's really it. I checked it with a multimeter, and I was putting out, I think right over a little bit of 2 amps with this particular motor. So it will charge batteries. That's a good thing, because if not, this would have been a terrible, bad situation right now. But now this is a very simple build to do. This is the second portion of the wiring that I was going to show you. I'll get all this wired into place, and then we'll test the unit out against a load on a battery. Now also off of our leads here that was coming from the bicycle itself, we run over here to our battery bank, and now I've plugged in my negative and I've plugged in my positive. And all you've got to do is plug those straight to the positive wire and the negative to the negative wire. And that's all there is to it. And you're ready to start feeding power into your batteries. Now for me, I always use that policy that 2 witnesses confirms a matter, as we always need to go off scripture for everything we can. And I was looking at my battery bank as determined by this meter that is on my charge controller from my solar setup that I've showed in the past, and how to install it. Is I was looking at it and it was 12.8 or something. So with just a little bit of time that I spent filming this right here and cranking the pedals, it's already up to 13. So that goes to show you that it is charging the batteries. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I was thinking that it's putting out 2 or maybe a little more amps. It's not, doing massive charging to the battery bank, but it is getting the job done. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. Alright, now moving up from our battery bank here, I've got the multimeter set on voltage so that you can see that we're going to be feeding power into the batteries and the voltage is going to go up. Okay, now right now, I'm going to be watching this. Alright, John, you can go to pedaling. I've recruited my son to help me out here just a second. Okay, we're pushing 14 volts right there, and he's pushing the pedal. And what we've got over here, keep pedaling it, John, is we've got 13 volts, and looks like it's on the other end. Okay, now let's stop, John, and see what we've got. Okay, now we got one last step to check here on the wiring. And I'm going to get on here and I'm going to pedal. I'm going to demonstrate for you the motor running and into the charging on the battery bank. Now, depending on the motor you get, you'll just need to check it with an amp. Check your amps, to make sure that you're getting good amperage output. I'm going to show you the voltage output on this in a minute, and later down the road I'll probably revisit this project and show you a few more things about it because I'm going to continue to tweak this. But now, as far as our wiring goes, I showed you in the very first step, you have your 3 hot leads coming together, you have your 3 negative leads coming together. One's going here, one's from the motor, one's to your bank. Not only that, from the hot, you have the one going through that has your blocking diode so that the power won't backfeed your motor. See, I have it plugged up right now and my blocking diode's in the proper area, because if it wasn't, it would be powering the motor right now, backfeed. And then we have the other lead going up to here. Now, let's move in right here. And you'll see that, go ahead and hop on the bike, you'll see here that I only have this bare wire at the moment. And I've just barely electrical tape this. I'll zip tie this neatly later on. Just getting this here for demonstration purposes right now. What I'm going to do later is replace the current volt meter that I have with one that's just powered by the pedaling action itself, because I've got it plugged in right here with a off an old cell phone charger to give it its 5 volts that it needs to stay powered. Okay, so now here is what I've done since that I used around an 18-speed bicycle. This is all the effort I have to give. A child can do this pedaling. I mean, this is no effort at all. I mean, actually, I can do this probably for an hour or two and get off and be nowhere near being tired. And this is like a casual bicycle ride. This is good cardio, and not only that, I'm putting plenty of voltage to my battery bank. And so there you go. I mean, our bicycle project's knocked out. So I hope this has been a help to you. I hope it's a blessing to you if you build one of these, because it's one of the top 10 prepping items that I think anybody should have when it comes to self-sufficiency, because this is a power source and a power generation source in itself. So until we see you here again at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel, hope you have a most blessed day in Yahushua's name.